Hey everybody, welcome back to PB&J, where we talk to pioneers, builders here in the city of Jacksonville. And I have somebody here that represents all three. He's a pioneer in the community, he's built several businesses, and he's a Jacksonville original. Mr. Grant, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Randall. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I know that and we've had conversations around the businesses you've built, and I certainly want to get into that at some point. But the reason we wanted to have you on the show is you've been doing a lot of work with the city of Jacksonville and growing the small and emerging business community from startups to SMBs through a various and copious amount of strategies. And so you took over the role about a year ago. You were appointed into the role by Mayor Deegan. I'd love to start there. When you were appointed into the role, did you know what you were getting into, first and foremost? And secondly, how has it been since starting?
Excellent. Thank you for that question, Randall. I can say with any position or any job, a lot of times, none of us know what we're really getting into, right?
That's true. That's true.
So we have a summary of a job, but then when you get into that position, I believe it's not what the position has to offer, but it's about what we bring as individuals to that position and through that to the community. And what I can say is initially on the offset, what I understood was many people was not aware of this great city resource, JSEB, the JSEB certification program. And I can tell you, being a native of this city, I did not learn about the JSEB program until maybe the last 5 to 7 years that I learned about this certification. And it was like, wow, everyone should know about this certification because it's such a unique jewel in the country.
Yep.
And what makes it very unique is really our 5 pillars, which is legislation, education, community, capital, and contracts. So coming into this role, after I was able to really dive in and do an assessment, over the first 6 months, we were really able to begin taking those 5 pillars and ingraining it into our community and giving our small businesses the opportunity. Keep in mind, in our city, we have roughly about 20,000 small businesses that we want to get this information out to right here in Duval County.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were talking about the certification, making people aware of it. Can you help maybe unpack what the certification entails? Like, somebody being a small business in Jacksonville is one thing, but becoming a JSEB certified business in Jacksonville opens a few additional doors, if I remember correctly. Can you kind of unpack what the certification is and what the logic would be behind somebody wanting to get it?
I sure can. The JSEB certification, number one, is a stamp of approval that a local business is a city certified company. And I can tell you, our community, all of us really, not just our community, but everyone loves to have a degree of certainty that a business has been vetted. And so the benefit of the JSEB certification is twofold. And I'll start with the business owner. The way this benefits the business owner is, number one, our legislation, which is pillar 1. According to legislation, 20% of the contracts that are eligible for JSEB performance are supposed to be awarded to JSEBs. And that's a big number when we talk about all of the contracts that are awarded on an annual basis. So to have those contracts sheltered because of the JSEB certification actually increases our small business economics. It allows our small and emerging business owners to have access to contract opportunities that historically would have been reserved for larger entities or entities with much, much greater resources. So this is a mechanism to allow our small businesses to grow within the city ecosystem. The other benefit is capital. And I mentioned that earlier. To grow a business, we all know that capital is required. It is nearly impossible to grow a business without an insertion of time, energy, and money at a profit. And so the city has provided capital access pathways specifically for JSAB certified companies. So number one, the law states you have access to 20% of the contract spend in the city when you have the certification. You get access to capital when you have the certification. We also have began setting up education centers. So you will have access to knowledge inside the program too. And there's a lot more goodies in there. I don't want to spend the time talking about
Yeah.
all of that. But I would say that it is very difficult to me when a business don't have it because they are setting themselves out to one of the greatest resources for their business in this city. And on the flip side of the coin, I just wanted to make this one statement before we move on. It's also, this is beneficial to our citizens because when our small businesses are resourced well, they deliver their products and services well to our citizens. And so it's not just a one-pronged approach of helping business owners. It is actually a multifaceted approach for the entire Jacksonville community.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Obviously, thank you for walking through that. One of the things you focused on there a little bit was getting the word out, just making sure that people are aware of what this is. And so what that takes my mind to is bigger newsworthy events. So let's take, for instance, we just got the stadium deal approved for the city. Is there anything about the stadium deal that JSEB certified business owners could look forward to? Is there anything that's either set aside for them or anything that they can apply to where having the JSEB certification would give them maybe an edge?
That is a great question. And the answer is 100% yes.
Okay.
In fact, there is a agreement with the stadium that 20% of JSEB eligible projects will be completed by JSEBs. And 20% is a pretty substantial number.
That's significant.
Is
Yeah.
very significant. We are, and I can tell you, the leadership teams that are working with the Jaguar Stadium are very adamant in ensuring that JSABs receive these opportunities. I have to put the plug in that actually on Monday, October 28th, that just passed, we had a JSAB informational session at the stadium regarding the bid packages, open forum. And we're going to be doing more of those because we want JSABs to, number one, have the information. We want to make sure they are participating on these projects and getting face-to-face time with the construction managers and also the leadership teams as it relates to that particular project. Lately, those meetings have been very targeted because what we don't want to do, Randall, is have someone that may be in a restaurant business coming to a construction meeting. So we are making sure that we target specific industries at the right timing. So that way they are getting the information that's pertinent to them at the time. We're not excluding anyone, but you want to be JSAB certified.
Of course. Okay. And let's talk about the certification, the attainment, and also the numbers around it. So when you first started, and you mentioned that you had not been aware of the JSEB program until recently. For me, I had not been made aware of the JSEB program until you and I met for the first time. And I've been in Jacksonville, and this February will be 18 years. And this program's been around, if I recall, a little more than 20 years. So for basically the entire existence of the program, I had not known about it. You took over last year, and let's start there. How many JSEB certified businesses were there when you first took over? And now that you've made this commitment to get in front of as many business owners as you can in the past year, where have the numbers gone? And, what are you forecasting, let's say, between now and the end of next year?
So when I first stepped into the role, we had a participation of about 200 maybe a little bit over 200 JSEBs. I would say about 210. Currently, a little bit over a year later, we are approaching 400. So we have nearly doubled the JSEB participation. However, that's been with intention on marketing, getting the word out. We are being very intentional about that. One of the reasons that hopefully we're on podcast with you, right, to help get the word out about JSEB, because we don't want this to be a best kept secret. We want it to be a best resource in the market for our small businesses, specifically in Duval County. So other projections that we have, I have an ambitious goal of ensuring that the program continues to grow year over year. Our goal right now is to continue growing at a rate of 100 to 150 new JSEBs annually. That is my current goal. One of the things I'm very proud of in this fiscal year is that we awarded about 40% in more contracts in this last fiscal year than the previous fiscal year. And I do believe it's because of awareness. It's because more people are coming into the program. It's because we're putting more attention on following the legislation as it relates to the program.
No, absolutely. Okay. I know, speaking of headline moves, somewhat recently, the budget for the city has passed and been approved. Is there any conversations in those budget meetings? And I'm assuming the answer is yes, but I would like to defer to you about JSEB and the amount of money that's allocated. And I understand it's 20%, but the amount that's allocated to these businesses, that's allocated to outreach, to education, to capital. How important is the JSEB conversation in those, annual budgetary meetings?
I can tell you the JSEB program is one of the many top priorities of the mayor. In fact, her stance is that she wants Jacksonville to be the small business capital of the Southeast. And the JSEB program is one of those methods of getting there. And so as it relates to the budget, we are resourced financially every year through the budget with growing and expanding the JSEB program. I'm very pleased with the resources that are currently being provided. On the last mayor's task force legislation, actually in 2023, November, the mayor and city council approved a $1 million capital access program. That's being managed by our department. And those funds are now being circulated in the JSEB community. I'm pleased to say that we have already approved nearly $50,000 in grants. And I want to highlight that word, grants. This is money that businesses do not have to pay back. In addition to low interest loans at 4%, which is huge in today's time. We also have another program that is a contract secured program that is another $1 million. I'm very happy to report that over the past 5 months, we have nearly exhausted that entire $1 million. We have awarded about $700,000 to our JSEB community just in a short period of time of 4 to 5 months. And those funds will probably be gone within the next 30 days. So
That's incredible.
Yes, thank you.
I don't want to gloss over that. That's absolutely incredible. I did not know that.
Yep.
The fact that the full contract spend is almost out is great. The $50,000 in grants, also great. Question about the grants, and I'm sure anybody watching this will probably have a similar question. What do people need to do to become eligible for a grant or a low interest loan besides being JSEB certified?
That's a great question. So we wanted to make sure that this particular program was inclusive of the entire small business community in Jacksonville. So that particular program was broken up into 4 programs. One is directed directly at JSEBs, and that is for grants and loans. We have another product that is directed only to our military veterans. So there is $50,000 set aside in grant money for veterans who are entrepreneurs. And so I'm very excited about that. We also set aside funds, what we call a micro grant program, and these are for non-JSEBs. So if you're not a JSEB, you can still take advantage of this product. Our low interest loans are available to the entire community. Doesn't matter if you're a JSEB or not. Again, it was very important to us that we not only take care of our JSEB community, but we take care of the entire small business ecosystem, which is one of the reasons we reorganized under economic development, because small business economics is very important, especially with working on becoming the small business capital of the Southeast.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's educate a couple of people on the reorganization. So where were you before? What vertical were you under? And then now that you've switched, I mean, you physically moved locations. So I assume that probably will be important to people who are trying to access you and finding out where you are and where to go. So where did it start? And then now that you're under the Office of Economic Development, what does that mean for the JSEB program as it relates to the city of Jacksonville's economic plan?
Absolutely. Initially, we were organized under procurement because the focus was primarily on helping small businesses compete fairly on city contracts. From a economic standpoint, we know that small businesses need to be equipped to perform on contracts. And so there are some things that need to happen prior to being on contracts. And it doesn't matter if you are a novice in business or if you've been in business for 30 years. There are some prerequisite things that are important. And so as I thought about the resources that small businesses need, such as, number one, knowledge on estimating how to bid, how understanding pre-award, award, post-award, what to do in those different phases, how to access the right capital at the right time for these particular projects. And I can go on and on. So we wanted to ensure that our small businesses understood the law, the legislation, and again, education, then getting some knowledge in how to perform very well on these contracts. And then the other part of it was community engagement, because I wanted to create a platform where business owners had a voice. You know, they have a voice. They can tell us their concerns. What do we need to do to make sure they're successful? And not only hear their voice, but we act on those voices. And that creating that community is a top priority for myself and my office. And this is an economic development piece. It's not a procurement piece. And then again, we go into capital and contracts. So it was a great move. The other document that governs economic development, or that's used for economic development, is called the PIP, which stands for Public Investment Policy. Mm-hmm. Under Public Investment Policy, objective number 4, it reads that we advocate for small business entrepreneurial growth and expansion in this city. So moving on to economic development, I'm looking to hold our city accountable for objective 4 and continue helping our small business entrepreneurs grow and expand by being under economic development.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. I know I'm circling back just a smidge. You talked about the numbers when you started. We talked about the numbers where we're at now, nearly doubled. I know what we're looking for year over year moving forward. We currently have 20,000 small businesses. We have about 400 or 500 certified businesses. So the percentage itself is pretty low. I assume your target, if in a perfect world, you'd get 100% of these businesses certified. Is there, how do I want to word this? Is there a way that you would want to bring more in than just the 100 or the 150? And is there a reason to not have the 20,000 become JSEB certified? Is there an argument against it?
There are several reasons. So I want to first really start off with some facts about small business, and this help better understand and shape the answer to this question. We have to understand the facts of small business, and here are the facts. The facts are that global, and this is a global fact, 99% of all businesses make less than $20 million a year in revenue. 99%. Our particular program, the cap to be in the program is a $36 million 3-year rolling average. So basically averaging about $12 million a year. So if you have about $12 million a year or less, you can be in the program. Because we have that particular parameter, we're going to already exclude those who are making more than $12 million a year. So that excludes them from being able to be in the program. What we have done is we have created other pathways in our legislation, Chapter 126, Part 7, that is local business participation. So we have businesses that are able to participate in that legislation, which is a 40% on participation model. So we are taking care of our entire small business ecosystem. The reality is that we are not looking to have folks in the JSEP program that are already at the mid 8-figure levels. However, what we are looking at doing is those who are beyond that, we want to resource them so we can level the playing field of the competition with larger firms. And we want to help make sure that they're a resource to do that. When we further delve into the numbers, then we have to ask ourselves, well, how many businesses in Florida are making less than $10 million a year? Because many of them, and when I say Florida, I'm going to just drill down to Jacksonville. But let's say in Jacksonville, Duval County, how many businesses are making less than $10 million a year in this city? And those are my targets. And I can tell you, it's probably most businesses in this city.
Okay. No, that makes sense. So I know I have some insider information, but I know that you have a tiered system in JSEB 1, 2, and 3. And we'll get into that here in just a second. But you were talking about the companies that go above 12 million. The tier 3 folks that are making the most amount of money in the JSEP program, is there a tiered structure that once they cross that $12 million threshold, that they graduate from JSEB, if you will, or move on to becoming a resource, or do they stay within the JSEB program and then maybe you guys spotlight them as a success story?
That's a great question. So in our ordinance, the graduation process is that JSEBs can remain in the program for 15 years from the time that they receive their first major contract. However, we don't want to lose what I call institutional knowledge. So if we have JSEBs who have matured in business, they've grown in the program, and even those who may have been in business for a short time, but they're tier 3 structured, once they are out of the JSEB set-aside program, I would call it, they move into a level that we have called JSEB primes, which is now in legislation. JSEB prime simply mean that tier 3 who's graduated, they cannot bid on JSEP set-aside or JSEP participation contracts. They can only bid as a prime contractor. However, we still provide them with resources needed to compete on a larger stage, so to speak. The other side of it is we encourage those folks to also be mentors in the program, meaning that they subcontract to our tier 1s, our tier 2s, and serve as mentors under the JSEP prime category.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So another benefit, we've already talked about benefits, but another benefit for people becoming JSEB certified, even in the tier 1 or tier 2 bracket, is access to mentorship from companies who have started where they were and grown to where they're looking to go.
Correct.
It's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Okay. So in continuing with the conversation about JSEB certifications, previously, it was a nightmare to become JSEB certified. We've made it a little easier, right? We've removed some of the documentation, we've removed some of the steps, and we've reduced the wait time from application to being admitted. What does that look like now? What kind of steps are necessary for these people to go from small business to JSEB certified business?
Absolutely. And I want to say this, a lot of times when these different SOPs or operating procedures are put into place, they're usually put into place for reasons. And so my predecessors are the time that predate me. I don't know the reasons for the application being the link that it was when I first came in. But what I can say, as a practitioner of entrepreneurship myself in the past, I understand that entrepreneurs' time is their most valuable resource, if not more important than money, for sure, because they need that time to make money. So when I evaluated the application process, it was very lengthy, very time consumptive. And in my first 30 days or so, that was my mission. I was like, no, we have to remove the barriers and make this process more lean. And we did that. In fact, there was about 45 questions or 45 items needed to be JSEP certified as per the previous application. In the first 45 days, we cut that in half. We moved it from 45 items to 22 items, or 20 to 20 items. What I can say is we have recently cut it again. The new application just rolled out today, matter of fact, and it is 14 items. And what I can say is I believe that making the process more user-friendly for our entrepreneurs is going to increase participation. The evidence is there. Thus, we've doubled participation. Again, the wait times, it generally, according to the ordinance, we have 60 days to process an application. We are now processing applications on an average of 7 to 10 days, and we have done them as fast as 3 days, depending on the entrepreneur. And so I'm very excited and happy about that, because if we can continue to be committed to lean processes and removing the barriers to entry to do business with our city, it just becomes a great benefit to everyone, to the city, to our corporations, to our small businesses, and to our citizens.
Yes. Okay. I think that's wonderful. I've been working with a couple of folks that are either JSEB certified and or considering becoming JSEB certified. And that was a big piece for them, was not only the application process, but just trying to go find and identify the documents you guys need. To hear you drilled it down that much more will be well received in the small business community, I assure you. Okay. Another thing that I wanted to make sure we discussed, because they're very important and I've been to them and the turnouts are incredible. Every month you host a town hall, JSEB town hall, in a different district in Jacksonville every month. And in those town halls, you have representatives from JEA, JAA, JTA, Jacksport, money managers, podcast hosts. You have just a plethora of things for people to come see and learn about. And then there's also that's time spent on learning about the JSEB program, and just the information's invaluable. I'd love to unpack that. Are you going to continue in 2025 to do the town halls? Do you expect them to grow? And how important is it for non-JSEB people, business owners, to show up to these to learn more about the JSEB program?
So the Equal Business Opportunity Forums, the town halls, we started this in November 2023 with the idea that we were going to do these every single month as long as I'm in this seat. And I modeled this philosophy after our mayor. When the mayor came in, one of the first things she did was community conversations in all the districts. And I thought that was wonderful. I worked with my team and I said, we need to do something like this for our small business community, so their voices can be heard, so they can get the information and get the resources. And we launched the very first one in November in the library auditorium downtown. And it was packed. It was packed. That library holds about a little bit over 300 people. Big stage, packed out, and the turnout was great. We didn't have the forum in December. December is the only month we don't have forums. So people, hopefully entrepreneurs, spending time with their family. And so at the top of the year, we planned out these forums for every single month. a year in advance. And we always do it a year in advance because we want to give the entrepreneurs a chance to plan their time. So if you go to our website, which is jacksonville.gov/JSEB, and you go under the events page, or you can go under business resources and find this, you will see our town halls, our equal business opportunity forums planned out a year in advance. And yes, we already have posted the entire schedule for 2025. The entire schedule is posted. And so we are going to do those every single year. So I encourage listening to this segment to go ahead and register for all of them if you can, but register for as many of them as you would like to. The reason I say all of them jokingly, but also seriously at the same time, is because each one of these are very authentic. I'm one of the rare speakers that you would probably never see me use a note card. I always speak authentically, and I believe that whoever is there in the audience, that information was meant for them at that particular time. I'm going to also have different resources at each of these meetings. So some people you may only see once, you may only see twice. So every one of these events are authentic, super authentic. And I recommend that the small business community get involved, get engaged, get their questions answered, and then watch us on our,
Yes, absolutely. So just to make sure we have it all, resources are there. They get to learn more about the JSEB program directly from the JSEB program director. They get to obviously network with other small business owners. They get to better understand the city of Jacksonville's vision for their small businesses. One thing that I also am aware of, I believe, I know that this has happened in 2024. I don't know if it's going to continue to happen in 2025. Maybe you can provide a little bit of clarity. The councilman or councilwoman from that district opens up the meeting, correct? Don't they come in and give a speech and talk about how important small business is in their district and give you an opportunity to be in the same room as your council person?
observation, yes. All of the city council leaders of those districts are invited, and when they are present, they do open up the meeting with a 5-minute welcome and engagement with the audience. And I can tell you in 2024, we had great participation from the city council leaders. And I do want to say this, the council has been very supportive of the business community and very supportive of these events. And if you do visit our website, you'll notice that the clips from each of these sessions are included in districts. And you can see how the city council truly supports small businesses in their areas. And yes, we're going to continue that protocol in 2025.
I want to give away just a smidge of value to anybody who might watch this that hasn't been to a town hall yet. But one of the things that you discuss, seems you find this to be more important than most things, is strategic alliances. I know that people can work together, and I know that people can network their way into situations, but I don't know that everybody thinks about the totality of what it takes to run a business and what it would be like to lean on others that can take things off your plate. Can you unpack the strategic alliance vision for these small business owners a little bit more? Because I find your view on it to be absolutely fascinating.
So, and you're absolutely right. One of the things we talk about in every all things, joint venturing and strategic alliances. The joint venturing process is when two businesses work together, and those two businesses are able to solicitations together. They're able to perform on proposals together. And what it does, it encourages client sharing and resource sharing amongst the joint venturing company. A strategic alliance is when three or more companies come together and they are sharing resources to bid on contracts, to perform on contracts, and also client sharing. Here's the power of this, that 80% of entrepreneurs fail. We've all heard that statistic. I'm a facts guy. I'm an objective guy. I like to understand the why. And I promise you, I've never been an engineer, but I like to understand the why and the technical piece behind that. And here's the technical piece. 80% of all businesses in the United States are sole proprietors or single member LLCs. About 12% are partnerships, and about 8% are large corporations. Think about that for a second for those who are listening to this. 80% are sole proprietors and single member LLCs, and 80% of businesses fail. What does that tell you? It tells you that we need to be working together. Partnerships and large corporations have one of the elements that shows stability, sustainability. And the way that business owners become stable and sustainable is by joining forces and working together as a unit. Thing I'm going to share with you is look at our city portfolio. We have a 8,000 small business portfolio in our county. Do you know how many jobs this 20,000 participating portfolio has created in this city? Let me give you some statistics about the United States. Businesses employ over 45% of all citizens in this country. Percent can be.
I did not know that.
Yep.
That's news to me.
Yes. Corporations employ about 40% of our citizens in this country, and the government and agencies employ approximately 15% of our citizens in this country. So if 45% of our United States citizens employed by small businesses, we need fiduciary responsibility to make sure that they are stable and that they are sustainable. And one way of doing that is ensuring that they lock arms and work together as ventures and strategic alliances.
45%. Yeah, I mean that's an incredible number that I would have never come to. I wouldn't have thought that number would have been above 15%.
That's a government number. So about 15% of citizens are working for the government or for agencies.
Yeah, but triple that is working for being employed by small business. Okay, well, learned something new. I appreciate that. So obviously the strategic alliance piece with and outside of the JSIP program is paramount for small businesses, obviously nationally, but we care about the ones here in Jacksonville to thrive. And we need to partner together. It was interesting because one of the town halls I went to, the other thing is you pluck people out of the crowd for the strategic alliance part. And you get two people who own businesses of varying degrees. You don't even know what they do. You just say, hey, I'll take you and I'll take you. And they come up and they say what they do. And in one of them, one owned a media company where they like deployed DJs and did like event planning. So they did weddings and celebratory events and stuff like that. They hosted business meetings. And the other one owned, I think it was like a wealth management company, something like that. And you were like, okay, I'm not going to tell you, but I'll let you guys talk. How can you help each other? And it just so happened that the person who owned the wealth management company was about to throw an event for their clients, and they needed somebody to like do the event management and provide the entertainment. And the other person was like, I don't know what I'm doing with my finances. And so they were like, we actually literally should talk when this event ends. And they walked out of there at least with a conversation that was to be had. I don't know if their strategic alliance fortified itself, but it can be that simple. I think at the end of the day, correct me if I'm wrong, We just need to be talking. We need to be telling people what we do. We need to hear what other people do. We need to engage in thoughtful dialogue. And we just need to craft conversations around how can I help you take the next step? Is there anything more to it than that?
Said it in a very simplistic way. And to me, that's what it's always about, being simple. One thing I want to add to that is, the conventional thinking when we all gather in networks like this, a lot of us have seen many groups, nothing against the chamber and BNI and all of that. I think all those organizations have a place and a need in the ecosystem. However, is that when you go to these events, it's not about how many business cards you can give and how many business cards you can receive. It's about how do I make a meaningful connection with the person next to me, and despite what their industry may be. I shared with a gentleman the other day. This was literally, yesterday. It's a mechanic shop. This other lady owns a bakery, mechanic shop and a bakery. And the question is, why in the world talk to each other? Or why in the world would they work together? Well, here's why. Because this guy who owns a mechanic shop can say, hey, for every oil change that you get, you get a buy one, get one free at this bakery. This bakery can also say, hey, every time you buy a cupcake, every 10 hole punches, you're getting a free oil change over at this particular business. They are working together. There are sometimes you can put together an unsolicited proposal and say, hey, I want to offer this service to this company. I want to offer a tire rotation. And with that tire rotation, while you wait, a cupcake comes with it. Into the price together. All of us, they're partners. They're working together. There is no limitations except for the limitations that business owners put on themselves. Every business owner should be working with someone.
Yep. I hate to draw this out longer than it is, but the other reason why they should be talking to each other is that bakery owner has no idea who the mechanic owner knows, and the mechanic owner has no idea who the bakery owner knows. So if the bakery owner's uncle has a car collection that he's been sitting on for a while, or he likes to refurbish cars as a hobby, well, then that's a natural introduction to make. Or if somebody who has a gluten intolerance is trying to start a blog and they don't know where to start, well, then that mechanic owner can introduce them to the bakery owner. There's just so many ways to connect people that even if they can't offer anything directly, there's indirect ways to provide value to each other and to obviously help each other grow.
You're 100% right. And that's what it's about. We want to be very intentional of how we connect. There's a connection to be made with every entrepreneurial neighbor. And guess what? When the community sees that example, they become connected.
Yeah. It's the whole reason we started this podcast is I'm going to be meeting with business owners from now until the end of time. And the longer I get to know them and the more I meet with, I'll know who to introduce to the other based on what the other does or what the other needs. And so I just wanted to play one small part in this, but it's my way of saying how you believe in it is the way I believe in it. And hopefully we can make that a little bit more infectious amongst the community.
100%. I love the great work you're doing, by the way, Randall. This is great work for the community.
Thank you. I'm very excited about it. And obviously I appreciate you being such a big part of it as well. So I want to just last thing on the strategic alliances. You find it to be very important. I find it to be very important. JSEB, City of Jax, you've got a lot of things coming, right? You're working on a lot of things. You're trying to grow the JSEB population. You're trying to grow the awareness around it. You're trying to help Jacksonville become the small business capital of the Southeast. So maybe you could use an example from this year, or maybe you can look ahead. But what are you guys doing as JSEB on the strategic alliance front to help yourselves grow and be more seen and heard around the city?
Question. So we are working with several I would say not even several, but really all of our agencies. So I want you to think about the city as an agency group. So in that agency group, we have chambers of commerce. So we have about 20 to 25 different chambers of commerce right here in our county. We have different resource agencies in our county, such as SCORE, SBDC, Jacksonville Women's Business Center, JMI, and the list goes on. So we have a group of those type of agency resources. Then we have our educational community. So we have universities here, we have colleges here, we have our financial institutions, which is another group, and you can imagine it goes on and on. So I want you to imagine JSAB, the hub, and all of those resources are the spokes. And the way that we create our strategic alliances with all these different entities is right through our entrepreneurship education center that we're launching, but then also on our I would say our evangelism around the city as it relates to small business. So we create and partnerships with the chambers so we can help with the education component. We resource these chambers to make sure that certain resources get to our small business community, because we can't reach everyone alone. It has a vertical and a part to play. Same thing with our financial institutions. We work with different levels of financial systems and financial organizations to deliver the right products and have an array of opportunities and products and different types of services depending on the situations of business owners. And I can go on, but the bottom line is those strategic alliances are critical to the survival of small businesses. And the reason that the strategic alliances with JSAB and all the agencies and surrounding agencies, and even agencies outside of this city that we work with, the reason it's so important is because I want to be able to change the statistic that 80% of businesses fail. If we can just move that needle to where 70% fail instead of 80, we have made the difference through strategic alliances. And so that's why it's very important.
Yeah. I mean, that 10% is what, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives that are different because of the fact that they were able to stay in business.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's great. Here's a question that kind of outside the box that just came to mind. We want to be the small business capital of the Southeast. We've kind of referenced that a few times here. Clearly we want to build from within. We want to take the companies we have, grow them up. But what's the play or what's the plan around marketing or just general awareness to other states and cities to get them to bring their businesses here?
A couple of different things. Number one, I believe that when our local small businesses are successful, we become attractive. They'll continually strengthen our small businesses and highlight those successes. I believe it's going to allow us to attract other organizations and other citizens around the entire country. About our identity, when we think about business or we use the word business, oftentimes it's easy to associate capitalism with Silicon Valley. We can say, hey, I want to start a multi-million-dollar business. It's easy to say, oh, well, go to New York, because you're around all these business owners. I believe that championing small businesses, becoming that small business capital of the Southeast, and not only that, for Jacksonville to be known as the destination city where small businesses thrive is extremely important, and it gives us identity that I believe we already are. City, a lot of people call us South Georgia sometimes, right? And
Yeah.
City, natural born city of blue collar entrepreneurs that are in their craft, but not only blue collar entrepreneurs, oftentimes I would say overlooked or underrepresented is that these same entrepreneurs are technologists. We are known for fintech. We're starting to be known for med tech. We have one of the clinic here. There's only 2 or 3 of those in the country for logistic tech. So this logistics, supply chain, we have all of those modes of transportation here. I believe as we highlight our business owners who are already experts in these spaces, uh, the technological aspects, highlight the logistics aspects, we're going to be known as the epicenter for start a business. And of any other in the United States, that if I said I wanted to start a business for the first time, what city comes to mind? If I want venture capital money, I know where it comes to mind. But if I want to start a business for the very first time in its embryonic state, go. Florida has quickly aimed as. You can see all the articles right now across the country that Florida is the #1 state to start a business. Jacksonville also shows up on these different lists as the top 5 cities in the country to start a business. So our identity has emerged, and continually to champion that and nurturing that particular ecosystem is just really outstanding in terms of small business growth and expansion.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. Essentially, build it and they will come. Field of Dream styles. Yeah,
They're already coming.
I believe that. And I know we've done a pretty good job bringing bigger businesses here too, like Dun and Bradstreet down from New York, New Jersey. And I can think of a few others, but
I'm sorry to interrupt, but the question is, are those large corporations coming here? Bradstreet.
well, I have my own answers. There's a tax difference, right? You come down here, we're a tax-free state, whereas New York, New Jersey, taxes are high. We have quite a bit of land. We are the largest city by square footage in the United States, so there's plenty of opportunity to build. And probably, and you can correct me here, I assume that there's legislation that is better suited for business here than there is in New York. But I'd love to hear where I'm missing and help connect the dots.
I would say because of the nurturement of businesses in this city. So here's what happens. Businesses create the FTEs, right? They create I mentioned earlier, is 45%. So as this ecosystem of jobs continue to grow, even corporations too, I want to give them their credit as well. As these jobs grow and as our population grow because we're becoming more attractive, corporations come to cities when there is the right populace to support that corporation.
Mm-hmm.
Jacksonville, as well as the state, is expanding our populace because we're becoming the #1, top 5 to start a business. And right now we are each of socioeconomics where having a side business or having a business is no longer it's a necessity. Adults and even of some sort. And so because of those ecosystems and the growth of those ecosystems, we're starting to become more attractive to corporations.
Yep. You were talking about the populace. I need to look this up. I'm fairly certain Jacksonville is the most populated city in Florida.
No, I believe we are. I don't know that for a fact, but I want to say I think I've heard that before.
Yeah, I do think we're there, and obviously we're growing. You can't throw a rock without hitting a construction zone here. So we're getting there. Awesome. Okay, so we know why JSEB's important. We know why Jacksonville's important to do the business. And we not only do we want to help grow our businesses here locally in an organic way, but obviously we want to help people understand that Jacksonville's a place where you should move your business or move to start your business. because we have the resources and the environment to help you succeed and thrive. As for the director, the JSEB director, Gregory Grant, I know this, but the people don't know this. Who were you before this? I mean, you were a serial entrepreneur, military veteran, father, husband, everything. Who, when they come to work with J7, they come to you for advice, what are they getting?
Question. So my background is I come from an entrepreneurial family, very humble beginnings, blue collar entrepreneur, and the value of hard work through entrepreneurship at a very young age. So I've been a practitioner of entrepreneurship, I would have to say, all of my life, or a product of it and a practitioner of it. I've owned 8 businesses myself in various different industries. I'm military, so I'm also an Army veteran. So I've served as active duty. I've also served in the National Guard afterwards, and I served in the Army Reserve after that. So I've served in those 3 different components of the United States Army, which, in my opinion, really allowed me to hone the skills of leadership. The military, my life, not that I worked in corporate America, primarily in retail management. So I worked for various corporations throughout my career. The corporate side of it really taught me the science of business, understanding the financial side, understanding the marketing. So I consider all that the science. And so shut down all my businesses. I recipe was to help others be successful in business. And so going to education. So my degrees, I completed my degrees. I became a professor at a couple universities here in Jacksonville and a couple colleges. And my expertise was entrepreneurship and business administration. So those are the courses I taught. In education was I was given a lot of theory, but I wasn't able to really follow the application. Decided to then work for the Small Business Development Center. I was able to consult businesses, theology, all the way, or ideation, all the way up to well-established companies. And I was able to see the application, of the information that I would give. To being a practitioner, being an educator, being a consultant, all things entrepreneurship and business, when this role available and offered it, one of the things that I saw was we have no shortage of workshops. We have no shortages of the town halls and no shortages of resources. City, what I saw was that entrepreneurs were not well versed in the laws that benefit them. Many entrepreneurs don't take the time to understand government resources offer them as a benefit that I believe would contribute to their sustainability. So, side of city government and really being an advocate for business owners in terms of legislation. And then not only just being an advocate, but also being a evangelist of getting the information out to the public of what these things are for them, because this is their taxpaying dollars, right? And this is our citizens' dollars. And so we want to make sure that businesses are successful beyond just another workshop, of, hey, this is how you do a business plan. This is how you do a marketing plan. This is a financial plan. How about we know what the law is so that way you can be sustainable? And to influence policy piece for our small business entrepreneurs is my passion, is what I plan to do for the rest of my life. And what every business owner would get from me when they speak to me or even maybe around me is they're going to always hear the enthusiasm from me about being successful, but they're going to get practitioner out of me. They're going to get the educator from me. They're going to get the consultant from me, and they're going to get the policy advocate from me. And I think those are unique categories to get all of that in one setting for an entrepreneur.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't have answered that any better. It's very clear you were meant for this job. I know that your heart was to give back. And I know you've started many businesses. You've ran multiple businesses. You've taken over businesses. So I don't think there's any stage of the business life cycle that you aren't incredibly knowledgeable on that you can obviously pass on to these people who are doing this for the very first time. That's wonderful to see that they're getting an incredible resource, not only in the program, but in the program director.
Appreciate that.
You're very welcome. Before I let you go, it's a Jacksonville podcast. So I certainly want to ask you some Jacksonville questions and maybe a couple entrepreneurship questions, just so that the point of this is in some cases there might be some undiscovered gems out there, and I want people to hear about them and maybe go discover them. So one question I love to ask is, outside of a chain restaurant, what's your favorite restaurant here in Jacksonville?
You can be endorse someone, huh?
I'm just saying, whose food tastes good. You don't have to put the stamp on them, but you can tell me that whatever they're doing in the kitchen's working.
I have to give. I'm going to say vegan, but I got to give my reason why.
Okay.
I've never been a fan of being a vegan because I am a major meat eater. I need my steak and burgers and they call it big meat. I have to be a big piece of meat on the plate every single time. This particular company, Crave Vegan, speaking to the business owners and consulting them on some things, and they say, you got to come to the restaurant and try us out. And I say, no, that's vegan food. I'm good. And they say, no, you don't understand. We sell ribs, burgers, complete menu. I say, yeah, but generally vegan food tastes a little bit weird. And it's like, no, you don't, you just have to come try it. So I did. I went to that restaurant and I tried it and I am hooked. I never taste any food that is as tasty as this. I'm able to pick up a rib that is a plant product, but it's a rib and it is good. So crazy.
Okay. Awesome. If there's like a spot in Jacksonville to go, let's say decompress or just go hang out for a couple hours and forget about the world, could be indoor, could be outdoor. But if you were to say like, hey, I really need to go unwind, where are you going?
So I have to admit, when it's an unwind, one of my favorite spots to go is the River Club, up of the view. When you go inside the River Club, is huge. One wall is just a huge open window open in the St. Johns River, and I go during a time when there's no one there. There might be one person there, and I use it as my thinking time. I'll sit there for about an hour or 2 hours. I may grab an appetizer and literally turn my chair and look at that view and just think.
Yeah, River Club's great. Okay. If you were to host like have a business meeting, not like a boardroom, but maybe a one-on-one meeting with somebody, could be a coffee shop, could be anything. Where's the best place to go?
Are a couple places. One of the places that I generally would go in terms of a board meeting. Obviously we use City Hall, but outside of that, I would recommend Beaver Street Enterprises. Of conference rooms, board rooms. It's a great space. Where the business ecosystems lie. But that's a great place that I would explore downtown is Beaver Street Enterprises as far as renting conference space or using conference space.
Okay. Last Jacksonville question. I'll get into the two entrepreneurship ones. What's the best beach in Northeast Florida?
Beach. But if I had to choose a section, I'm a bit biased. So I like Ponte Vedra, quiet and relaxation, and not a lot of people and movement. then I would utilize Ponte Vedra Beach. But if I'm going to have fun and interaction and interact with people, then I'm going to go down to Jacksonville Beach.
Okay. I like that answer. All right. Entrepreneurship wise, somebody's waking up tomorrow and they say, hey, I'm going to start a business, or I have $1 million idea and I want to start getting after it. What is the first book you would recommend they pick up to learn about, whether that's money, business, discipline? Where would you turn them to read before they decided to trot on and start the business?
Several books. However, I'll start with Profit Sense. Michael, it's a weird last name, but the name of the book is Profit Sense. I think it's important for people to read that book because it is a great book about finance. And a lot of people say, well, Greg, why would you have a person start reading about finance first instead of starting a business first? The thing is because the definition of entrepreneurship, and I'm going to give that. The definition of entrepreneurship to me is a person who solves problems. When you decide you want to be, I believe everyone is entrepreneurial. I believe my mother was entrepreneurial. She solved our family problems every day.
Yeah.
That's, it is entrepreneurship. However, when you decide that you're going to solve a problem out of profit, you're now using entrepreneurship as a business. Completely different. And when you decide to become a business owner to solve a problem out of profit, you first have to understand how to make profit. Finally, it doesn't matter what business you start, but your profit model should be in place before you start it. Otherwise, you'll be part of the business statistic. And I'm not going to be a spoiler of the book, but one equation that I live by in business and one that I teach is revenue minus profit margin equals expenses. It was inspired by Profit First. So that's the top book I recommend.
Okay. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes. Last question. Growing every day, mentally, physically, emotionally, is incredibly important, just at the human level, let alone the business level. So when it comes to daily reading or daily listening, is there anything you would recommend, website-wise, newspaper-wise, podcast-wise, that people look for continuous development?
So I'm not going to say that there is any specific reads because I believe everyone needs to read what's authentic to them. But I will say that there are 3 categories you should always choose from simultaneously. Be a book or a read to enhance your mental health. There should be a book or a reading or something you engage in that is going to enhance your physical health. And then number 3, you should always be reading something or doing something that enhances your financial health. So I believe that health is wealth. So anything that I read is going to be something that's going to be referencing mental, physical, and financial growth.
Okay. Awesome. That's all I had. I guess as we head out here, where's the next Equal Opportunity Business Forum?
Question. What I can tell you, it is in District 7. But the exact address, go to jacksonville.gov/JSEB, and you'll be able to find the exact address location.
Okay. And where can people find you?
Website. You can find me at that same website. However, I don't mind giving out our main phone number, which is 904-255-8620. We have a excellent customer service policy, open door policy. So we want to talk to every business owner in this county.
All right. I'll make sure it's all in the show notes. I'll make sure we broadcast that out. Obviously, I'm excited to see how this goes, and I'm excited. I expect this to be a routine guest appearance so we can talk about how JSEB's growing, what kind of impact and involvement we're having, and obviously see the results of the work we're putting in. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for talking about JSEB. And I look forward to when we do this again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.